So yes, I think as Bala said, my name is Dusty Gardiner, and right up front I just want to acknowledge inputs to this presentation from Dr. Justin Jordan and Dr. Raj Lalu. They were colleagues at the CSIR who've developed some of these technologies, and they are now leading spin-out companies that have been spun out of the CSIR, and they're leading those initiatives. And I just want to share them and thank them for sharing their knowledge and the inputs they made to this presentation. I think just to provide some context around what I'll be talking about today, one of the key things that we're trying to address is that biotechnology is not seeing wide uptake in South Africa. Globally, it's about a $500 billion industry, and it's growing at close to 10% per annum. If we get closer to home in South Africa, the most recent information I think that's available indicates that there's around about 70 companies that are actively involved in the bioeconomy or that use biotechnology. And those are mainly SMMEs. So we're getting quite slow uptake of the technology, and I think as a country we're losing out on value that biotechnology is actually, can actually contribute to the country. So I think, and there's a number of issues that are actually limiting the growth of this particular industry. I think Bevan, our first speaker, actually spoke a little bit about some of the incentives that government is trying to put in place, tax incentives, funding and investment to try and enhance the competitiveness of South African industry, and to get increased investment. And some of those interventions are impacting on the biotechnology industry. I think that we do need the private sector, VC type funding, etc., to also come to the party a lot more. But as a CSIR, as a science and technology organization, while cognizant of those other limitations, we focus on limitations or bottlenecks that we can address and work with government, and they also come to the party with other interventions. So I think in the biomanufacturing space, one of the key technology bottlenecks that is limiting growth of this sector is really that there is very limited infrastructure available. And if you're looking at end-to-end manufacturing processes, this is really expensive infrastructure. And as I said, it's not widely available. The other thing with a very small industry, there aren't really companies where people can go and hone their biomanufacturing skills. And actually, so we have a very small skills base in that particular area. And this is one of the limitations. So when investors look at investing in South Africa, they look at things, what is the ecosystem? Does it actually support growth of companies, etc.? So that is one of the limitations that we actually have in South Africa. Now at the CSIR, we've actually been involved in biomanufacturing products and process development, etc., for around about 15 years. A number of us came from industry, so we have experience in that particular area. But we were really looking at how we can take our expertise, our infrastructure, and actually alleviate this bottleneck. So the key intervention that we put in place is establishing this biomanufacturing industry development center, and we really focus very much on bioprocess development, piloting, and even going through to manufacturing. While we prefer not to do manufacturing, the reality in South Africa, SMEs don't have the infrastructure. They go to venture capital or to financiers to actually get investment to establish the infrastructure, and they're told that, sorry, you're too early, you're not in the market. So they're in a bit of a catch-22 situation. So what we really focus on here is do manufacturing, especially in the initial stages of their business, allow them to get some traction in the market, and they are then more attractive to investors. So we very much focus in this space, and obviously we need to work very closely with industry, with incubators, business incubators, and on this side also with universities, where often the pipeline and the really great research is happening. Just to give you some context, I think I've put this slide in there just to provide some context about the sort of size and scale and that we're talking about here. Typically in a research, in university-based research, you'll be looking at this small shake flask type level. When you start getting into process development, process optimization, you're going up to about 20 liters, pilot scale and scale up, you're starting to move into the hundreds and thousands of liters. And then if you're really talking about commodity type manufacture, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of litres, where each vessel here is 4 stories high. And myself and some of my colleagues, like Dr. Lou, were fortunate enough to actually work on this particular plant, which manufactured amino acids. We worked here for a number of years, and I think we really learned about technology transfer and what the requirements are for commercial technologies, etc. But I think besides these very large this very large manufacturing infrastructure, what is really relevant to the SMME sector is that for high value, low volume products, even this scale, 20 litres up to a couple of 100 litres, is manufacturing scale. And that manufacturing scale actually, for some products, can be sufficient to actually make quite a significant, or capture quite significant international market share for particular products. And this is where our facilities, where we really work, become really relevant, both for product development and for manufacturing. I think so. Our BRDC program, back to that, the first phase of the program, we focused very much on SMMEs. As I indicated, South Africa's biotech or bioeconomy is largely based on SMMEs. And we were fortunate to get support from the Department of Science and Technology. Bevan mentioned the Industry Innovation Partnerships program, which has provided support, and then also from Treasury via the Jobs Fund program. We have had significant support. But as I said, here we're focusing on SMMEs. We're currently engaged with, or working with, I think it's around about 20 SMMEs. This program is 2 years old since inception to today. And you'll see that they come from a wide range of different market sectors. Some of really high value, some perhaps more commoditized, like food, for example. But I think rather than the absolute numbers, then don't worry too much about that. I just think some take-home or some key characteristics of these SMMEs is that you'll see when we start working with them, they are either new startups or have not been in the market that long. And the reason they come and work with us is, even those that are in the market, is how do we scale our business? How do we move from our garage, or backyard operation into a really, into a manufacturing process that will meet regulatory requirements, that has appropriate quality standards, etc. Now, the other key thing you'll notice about the program, I said, don't worry about the numbers because we continually refine these. And in some instances, financial projections from the SMMEs themselves are actually far, far larger than that. But we adjust them downwards, I think, to perhaps more realistic. And these are 3-year projections. And the key things we focus on in this program is around turnover, or contributing to GDP. And while these numbers are still, I think, are relatively modest, I think we're trying to assist in building an industry from the ground up. The 5- and 10-year projections obviously look a lot, a lot more attractive. And the other key thing, because we're funded by Jobs Fund, is how many jobs we create is actually also very, very important, both permanent and temporary jobs. A number of these companies are actually showcasing their products that they've developed with us in the exhibition hall. So if you want to go and talk to some of them, I'm sure they will welcome you there. You can visit their stands and you'll have some eager beavers filling you in on what their business is about. But I think one of the key things through this program as well, we have had well in excess of 100 applications from SMMEs to participate and for assistance. And we can't currently, we can't possibly help that number at any one time. But what this has made us do is look at how we can do what we do better. How can we do it better? How can we do it faster? How can we do it at lower cost so that we really increase the value that we're generating probably with the same resource pool? How do we increase the value, and how do we increase the impact that we actually deliver? Now, one of the mechanisms that we've adopted is an approach that's known as Agile Product Development. And essentially, in a nutshell, we're trying to summarize what Agile Product Development is that it's really you adopt an iterative approach where you engage with your market and customers and get market testing while you are still doing development. So you do not complete development and then go and talk to the customer or the market. They are actually part of your product, and they, iteratively testing that product and telling you if it's good enough or not good enough. And really the whole philosophy, this approach was actually developed and refined in the IT industry, and it has been around for a number of years. Just another representation is that traditional approaches, I think, to product development take this linear approach where you do research, development, eventually you get into the market. With an agile model, you're actually doing all of those in parallel. There's a lot more complexity in that approach, so you need to work really hard at refining it and getting it right. And I'll be quite honest, we are still learning as we go along with this particular model. But I think we are already seeing some benefits and some success for actually adopting this model. Information from the IT industry indicates what some of the key factors are for agile development. And these are very different to what you would see for a traditional product development approach. So for example, the most important one is the culture in your organization. And we are continually working on that culture. You want people that buy into this model, people that are happy to engage in the market, people that want to see products out there. That is what their passion is. So your culture is very, very important. The other key thing is feedback and communication, and this is both within the team, and obviously that team includes your customer, includes the market. If you don't get that right, it doesn't work. And interestingly enough, your sort of traditional time budget focus of traditional product development is really not that important at all. So I think you even in this approach, you need to be agile you need quick decision making. You need to be able to make decisions quickly, change track quickly, etc. Whereas bureaucratic type processes slow that down. The other key factors I think that we've identified in the biotech space, and this may well be unique to our situation of South Africa, but I don't think so, is that whatever the technology platforms that you're developing products off, you need a really, really deep knowledge. So the initial R&D investment into these platforms is absolutely essential to be able to follow this agile approach. The other one, you need the infrastructure and skills. If you don't have those, you're not enabled to do product development in any case. And then your networks are also very important, I guess, which talks to collaboration, because you cannot do everything yourself. And if you want to do it fast, you don't then go and develop the skills or the knowledge to do it. Go and find a partner or collaborator that already has them. Okay, I think I'm going to just move on to, I guess, what I think is the crux of the talk, 2 case studies. The first one is a magnetic microsphere platform, which is we've commercialized through a spin-out company, Resin Biosciences. And this company is being led by Dr. Justin Jordan. He's unfortunately not here today. He's in Germany at the biggest biotech trade show, annual trade show called Biotechnica, and he's actually exhibiting at that conference. First thing, what are microspheres? 5-year-old needs to understand it, I guess. So they're really small nano to micron-sized particles that we add iron-containing compounds to magnetize them. And then what we do is that we actually functionalize these molecules to do a specific task. So in this case, we attach a C molecule to the surface, and in a very complex soup like blood or urine, for example, it will only bind to a specific target molecule, B in that case, which might be a cancer biomarker, whatever it is. Once you've added them and mixed them, you can then pull the beads aside with a magnet, and you can then remove the soup. So what you are then essentially left with is your target molecule, say it's a cancer biomarker, which can then be analyzed for the presence or absence of that, or you can actually release that cancer biomarker from your bead. And you then, again with the magnetics, you just pull the beads to the side, and you're then left with your target molecule, which you can use in diagnosis or further R&D, etc. So this is a much simpler, quicker research process. It saves a lot of time, and time is money at the end of the day in terms of traditional research approaches that have been applied here. So these magnetic microspheres find a wide range of applications, right from diagnosis of disease, various research type applications that are applicable to drug discovery, for example. So there are a wide range of possible applications. which I guess is one of the reasons why we developed this technology. And I think the key advantage in this example that our technology had over existing technologies is to do with the surface area available for functionalization. The older, or the versions that are still out there, the binding of, when you activate these molecules, you can only bind to the external surface. That's all that's available for binding. The resin microspheres, I guess the analogy there, they're like a ball of wool. Okay, so there are gaps and openings, so the whole volume of that microsphere is available to bind and to functionalize, which increases your binding capacity significantly. So you get improved sensitivity for diagnostics. This is very amenable to high throughput or automated applications, for example. And there's a little cross-sectional microscope slide at the bottom that illustrates it quite nicely. You'll see the solid microsphere, for example, and this is binding of a fluorescent protein. It only binds to the surface. You'll see with the resin one, it actually binds right throughout the whole volume. And this is a patented technology that has now been granted in a number of countries, including the USA and Europe, etc. Again, I think as I indicated up front, we did a lot of investment into research and development of this technology. And just some of the parameters, for example, that we needed to understand and optimize. Different applications require different sizes, for example. How do we actually create microspheres of different sizes? How do we functionalize them? Different chemistries, different biological molecules. And the list goes on. Porosity. How do we make it more porous or less porous? So there was significant investment that went into this technology platform. And obviously, as we develop products, we've learned more as well, and we continue really learning about this. So the approach we took here to product development, the first one, as I said, we needed an expert platform knowledge, and then we needed to be constant interaction with customers and end users, and they can be the same grouping, or they can be very different. And the target market here is R&D labs, and the end users are scientists, because the first range of products is really R&D reagents, high-end R&D reagents, and these products are extremely valuable. I mean, they sell for between 200,000 and 300,000 rand for 10 milligrams. So they're really, really high value. That interaction between the expert knowledge and the customers was obviously very, very important in identifying a problem and then identifying a solution. And the key thing in identifying a solution is establishing what a minimum viable product is. What does that product need to look like to solve the customer's problem? So you really do that right up front. What is good enough to actually solve the customer's problem? Once we've developed the product as well to those specifications, in this particular instance, we also do benchmarking against best-in-class current products or other solutions that are probably there to ensure that we actually do have a value proposition for the client. But I think the key thing is that once you have met that minimum specification and you have a value proposition, you stop research on that product. You do not continually go into this re-optimization cycle and try and develop the best product that's ever existed. When it meets specifications, you stop. You already. Was that 25 minutes? I've already used 20 minutes. Jeez, I'm talking too much. Okay, we then test obviously with the market, and if the product's good enough, we have a product. If not, we go through iterations of testing. And using this approach, initially we were taking about 12 months to develop a product. We're now down to about 6 to 12 weeks. Which is also a value proposition for the company Resin Biosciences, because you can provide solutions very, very quickly. I'm going to have to skip some slides here because I've spoken too long. But I think this was just an example about some product development and how we went about it. But really, from what started as a request from a collaborator who had a problem with specificity of existing products, we actually ended up, and they published the work, which is valuable marketing if you're marketing to scientists. We got new collaborators who were able to do high throughput automated systems for them. And now we're starting to see an ecosystem developing, an innovation ecosystem developing. And both ourselves and Resin are actually now working with some of the top research institutes in the world as customers and collaborators, and with a number of multinationals. And this is just one product. And Resin has received some global awards for their technology. And at this particular lab automation conference, as an example, 4 awards were given. One of the others was given to Sony Corporation, just to put it into context, the level of the award. Right, moving on. These are the guys that have actually commercialized it. Justin Jordan, he's leading this. And I think you see they've got quite an extensive product portfolio already through adopting this approach. And there are some product variants within each of those product categories as well. So this company is on the verge of actually signing their first, getting their first investor on board, VC investment. It'll really allow them to scale and really service global markets. Okay, the next one, Dr. Raj Laloo is here. He's leading this company. And this is really about commercializing or spinning out a bacillus technology platform. The bacillus are bacteria, a large family of bacteria. There's very few. Some are pathogenic. They cause anthrax, for example. But a large number are mutual, are beneficial and find commercial use. Yeah, let me move on. I've got to move on fast. Again, they've got a large range of potential applications. We like technologies that have many possible applications. Because they produce enzymes, they produce plant growth factors, antimicrobial properties, etc. They have a large variety of different applications. And some of the key, the company, the company is currently focusing a lot of the activities into the animal health market and around water and sanitation as their first target markets. Again, we invested significantly in this technology platform. Some of the key investments were actually making it cost effective. Can we make products cost effective, and can we formulate products that give the required stability, shelf life, and performance in the market? So Optimus Buyers is our commercialization vehicle, and it's been around now, actively trading for about 6 months. And I think doing really well and growing very fast in the market. I'm a bit reluctant to share financial information. If my colleague there would like to later, he can. But I think the other key thing now, in terms of Optimus Buyers' business model, they are working with sales and distribution partners, reformulators, etc., to get into different markets. So sanitation, water, agriculture, aquaculture, and they have partners in each of those. But I think in adopting this Agile approach, one of the things that we learned very quickly is that typically an R&D organization like the CSIR will engage very closely with their commercialization partner. And that's where they access all the information about what the problems are in the market information, etc. What we've learned here, and I'm just using the one example, and it's a very simplistic value chain, is that it's absolutely critical for us to stay involved down the whole value chain. We can provide technical information, support new products, bring our networks to bear, but in return, we get market information right down the value chain. We identify new product leads and new opportunities to realize impact. Often the impact we can create far more impact down here than we actually can over here. So it's absolutely essential that we stay involved all the way down. And if we look, and this is again, as I say, you start creating innovation ecosystems. And obviously they're much bigger than what I'm just showing here. But this is just an example of part of that ecosystem that has actually developed around Optimus Buyer and ourselves, and through maintaining a close relationship. I spoke about Biocentric. Another one of their key distributors is SPP, or they've created a new spin-out called Microspheres that actually is handling their whole biological portfolio. Biocentric was also a new spin-out, a new startup company. AgChem in the agricultural sector, they've also created a new startup called Galtech to handle their biological portfolio. They're already in the chemical sector. That's my last slide. Whoops. And there's a whole range of other opportunities. So we start seeing, and I think importantly as well in terms of impact, is that this company has bought into the ethos of actually sharing value. So they're working with a number of BEE startups, largely to serve rural areas and rural markets. But the key, and these are sales and distribution partners. I think that ethos is also very, very important. But I think what the key question here is we start bringing other opportunities to bear and add CSIR's relationships to this. You actually have this big ecosystem, and the importance of that is that you have access to a far wider range network of market information, collaborators, partners, etc. And you start seeing linkages appearing between different ones. They're sharing distributors. They're actually sharing customer information, etc. So the value and the impact you end up creating by adopting this approach is far greater than I think a more traditional type approach. Right, and Optimus Buyers also exhibiting, so if you want to know more about them and more info about how this whole model works, Raj will be there. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Nice round of applause.